Josh Hasten here, Israel Uncensored, on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. It is Monday, the 24th of December, 2018, 16th of Tevet, 5779, coming to you from a beautiful day in Jerusalem. Winter's here. It's nice and cold. Those who know me know I love the winter. We had some rain over the weekend. Hopefully we'll get more rain here, which is a true blessing in the Holy Land, in the land of Israel. I hope you're doing well in your part of the world. Get in touch with me during the week. Josh at thelandofisrael.com. On Facebook, it's Joshua Hasten. And on Twitter, at Josh Hasten. My guest in just a few minutes will be Seth Franzman, op-ed editor of the Jerusalem Post. He's also Dr. Seth Franzman, by the way. He's got his PhD in, I believe, some sort of Middle East studies. He's also the executive director of the Middle East Center for Reporting and Analysis. He spent a considerable amount of time in Iraq and in Turkey, covering conflicts in those locations. So we're going to talk to him about the U.S. decision, President Trump's decision to pull troops out of Syria in the days, weeks, and months ahead. We'll get to that soon. But Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Turkish President Erdogan going back and forth in a Twitter war just yesterday. I think Netanyahu came out on top, accusing Erdogan of trolling him. I thought it was actually pretty funny. But in all seriousness, the Prime Minister, as reported by the Jerusalem Post, saying that Erdogan is an anti-Semitic dictator. And again, the war of words erupting over the weekend, hitting a fever pitch. He has an obsession with Israel, says Netanyahu, of the Turkish leader, who ignited the long simmering feud between the two leaders, attacking the Jewish state and its army in a speech he gave on Saturday. Erdogan knows what a moral army is, and he knows what a genuine democracy is, says Netanyahu, as opposed to an army that massacres women and children in Kurdish villages, and a state which, to my regret, is becoming more dictatorial day by day. That is our prime minister. And then he said, I was just exposed to the daily trolling of the anti-Semitic dictator Erdogan. And Netanyahu went on to say that Erdogan used to attack me every 2 hours, but he was actually saying, but because of Netanyahu then attacked him on Twitter, but now it's only every 6 hours. So Netanyahu trying to mock the president of Turkey, Erdogan, a bunch of other Turkish officials turning their attention on social media, bashing Israel, bashing the prime minister, accusing Israel of all sorts of horrible things. Yet, of course, Turkey is the one that is becoming more and more radicalized, taking away more and more freedoms for the people there. We'll speak to Seth about this as well. In other news, the J Post reports, and this has been happening. This has happened several times over the last couple of months. The Palestinian Authority, switching gears here, has arrested 44 what they call Palestinians for selling property to Jews. Did you know, if you hadn't by now, that it is illegal? It's in the books. It is the law. I think it was the first law passed that a Palestinian, an Arab, I don't use that term so much, Palestinian. It is illegal for the Arabs living in Judea and Samaria and parts of Jerusalem to sell land to Jews, punishable by heavy labor or perhaps death. So a transaction took place, according to a statement released by the Palestinian Authority. I guess they admitted it this time, which included a transaction of 300 hectares of land and 3 houses in 6 different districts throughout Judea and Samaria and Jerusalem. Transactions were foiled by the PA intelligence. And again, 44 Arabs arrested for selling property to Jews. And the question we ask is, where's Airbnb in all this? Here you have a company which assists people share their apartment rentals on their platforms. We're talking about properties here, yet it is still, despite what you may have heard in the media, it is still a policy of Airbnb to delist, not to list those properties of Jews only throughout Judea and Samaria. Yet I'm curious to know where the statement is on the fact that if you are an Arab and you sell property to Jews, you can be put in jail for a very, very long time. We also have the incident here last month of the sale of a house which took place. An Arab with American citizenship sold land to a Jew, was arrested And you even have Israel's U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, calling for the release of Issam Akel, this Palestinian American from Jerusalem. His family's appealed to the State Department. The PA has arrested him for an apparent transaction in which he carried out the horrible crime of trying to make money for his family by selling property to a Jew, which is a no-no under the Palestinian Authority. Switching gears here, other news from Israel. Hamas vows to test once again one of these, I don't know, what is it, another day of rage this coming Friday. Last week in another one of these march of returns, whatever they call it, on the Gaza border, Israel was forced to shoot and kill 4 rioters who, of course, this isn't just a demonstration. It's not peaceful. We know this. It's been over 6 months, if not longer. These people are trying to infiltrate into Israel, trying to murder Jews. The IDF is taking necessary defensive measures, and 4 rioters were killed. So Hamas is now threatening that this coming Friday will be the scene of major demonstrations, and who knows what they have in mind. I mean, I haven't heard about the kites in a while or the balloons. I don't know what they have in mind, Hamas, but they're planning once again this Friday to take to the streets. The IDF, according to this article here by Israel National News, has started taking precautions. Of course, getting involved in the traffic patterns there on the Gaza border so that, God forbid, nobody should be attacking Jewish civilians or soldiers who are simply riding in their cars along the border. But they've done that before, so we'll have to wait for Friday to see what happens. Turning to the northern part of the country in the Golan, Israel National News also reports that IDF troops on Sunday evening last night spotted armed suspects who crossed what is known as the Alpha Line into Israel near the Syrian border fence in the Golan Heights. IDF troops fired towards them, no injuries reported, and the IDF says they'll continue to operate against violations of Israeli sovereignty and the 1974 Separation of Forces Agreement. This by the IDF spokesman's unit. This apparently is the first, or at least most recent incident since President Assad in Syria regained control over that area near the northern border. At the start of Sunday's cabinet meeting, our Prime Minister Netanyahu said that this in reference to the U.S. decision, we'll talk to Seth Franzman in a few minutes about this, the decision to withdraw 2,000 U.S. troops from Syria will not change our consistent policy. We will continue to act against Iran's attempts to entrench itself militarily in Syria, and to the extent necessary, we will even expand our actions there. So here you have Netanyahu speaking strongly against the Iranian influence in Syria. At the same time, last night you have perhaps an attempted infiltration through the Golan into northern Israel. LeBron James, NBA champion, NBA MVP. Some argue the greatest player of all time. First of all, he wasn't. He's not the greatest player of all time. Let's be clear. Michael Jordan is clearly the greatest player of all time. That doesn't have anything to do with the news, but when you're a Cavaliers fan, you gotta love LeBron James bringing the title back to Cleveland, the NBA title several years ago. But LeBron James under fire, reported by the J Post, after posting what appeared to be anti-Semitic lyrics from a song onto Instagram. He's now with the Lakers. LA Lakers forward and NBA basketball star LeBron James is facing serious criticism from the Jewish community and sports reporters alike after posting a tenuously anti-Semitic lyrics to his Instagram account. He actually took down the lyrics later on, obviously realizing that he was doing something wrong. 4-time NBA MVP, 3-time NBA champion. He posted a selfie with text from a song by a rapper named Savage. You know anything about the Savage guy? Bresky doesn't know anything about this guy Savage. I've never heard of him. The lyrics posted were, quote, "We gettin' that Jewish money, everything is kosher." So a lot of people now criticizing LeBron James, but he said a bunch of controversial things just in recent days. accusing NFL owners of carrying out some kind of slave trade or whatnot. Those NFL players who make $100 million. Apparently, they are subject to treatment he equated with slavery. So that's LeBron James causing controversy and spewing or sharing at least anti-Semitic posts on his social media. I suggested also myself on Twitter and Facebook that LeBron James should double down on his anti-Semitic posts or Instagram posts or whatever they were, and maybe approach the Jews in Squirrel Hill, Pittsburgh, to see how they feel, or if they think it's funny that Mr. NBA LeBron James decided that he was going to side or support or think it's cool to endorse anti-Semitic lyrics in a song. Why doesn't he say something to them publicly, like, sorry about that, or who knows what? I mean, I guarantee you the Squirrel Hill people don't think that LeBron James or his antics are funny. And let's remember that despite the argument, he is not the greatest NBA player of all time. Okay? Yeah, you can call me bitter that I'm a Pacers fan and he beat us in the playoffs every single year, either in Miami or in Cleveland. But he is he's just not a nice guy. He's just a punk. That's what LeBron James is. No class. Jordan had class. Larry Bird was, if you look at the stats, even Larry Bird has better numbers than LeBron. So I'm definitely down on the Lakers, down on LeBron. Not all the Lakers, but definitely down on LeBron for his for getting involved with this. Why would somebody post something so stupid like this? Why would people do this? Why would he do it? He knew what the reaction was going to be. Do you think he was being funny? What was his goal here? Maybe that's who he really is. Maybe that's the way he really feels. Either way, I'm assuming there's going to be an apology coming up soon. Maybe, who knows? But he's LeBron, self-centered. He calls himself the king. Who made him king? I mean, people call Bibi Netanyahu king, but that's other people. LeBron calls himself King James. What an arrogant, whatever. I'm going to not use bad language here. Anyway, yeah, we'll finish. Well, just one other story here. If you remember, the people of Amona, the residents of Amona, were forced off their land, out of their homes about, 6 months ago. A new yeshuv was built for the residents of Amona called Amichai, but some of the residents are actually going back to Amona. This last week, there were reports that they have re-entered that area, and some of them legally purchasing property so that they could go and live where they were before in Amona. The Culture and Sports Minister Mary Regev visited those residents on Sunday, asking, these people bought the land. They want to build on their land. Why shouldn't we treat the residents of Amona or Ofra like we treat the residents of Tel Aviv or Kiryat Shimon or anywhere else where people should have the right, at least, to buy property, buy land, build homes, expand, beautify the land of Israel. I'm not sure really if Amona is planning on rebuilding the whole community in light of the fact that they've moved now to this new community of Amichai. I don't know what the long-term strategy or goal is, but several families have gone back to Amona, settling on land that they purchased that is legal, state land. And, of course, land issues very complicated here. But the bottom line is, why shouldn't Jews be allowed to legally purchase land here in Israel? But I wanted to share some positive news, the fact that things are actually happening with Amona. Please God, there'll be a full community there, as there once was very, very recently in the past. But don't go anywhere, because right after the break, Seth Franzman, op-ed editor of the Jerusalem Post, will be here to discuss the situation in Syria vis-a-vis the American decision to pull out its troops. Don't go anywhere. Josh Hastings here, Israel Uncensored, on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. You can always get in touch with me during the week, Josh at thelandofisrael.com, on Facebook, Joshua Hastings, and on Twitter at Josh Hastings. Short break, and we'll be right back.
If you want to improve relations between Israel and American Jews, one of the things that you should do is encourage people to listen to the Land of Israel Network. Listen to Eve Harrow and listen to Yishai Fleischer and listen to Ari and Jeremy and Shlomo Katz and listen to Mike Foyer and listen to Josh Haston, because the Land of Israel Network has a mission, and that's to spread love between Israel and American Jews. There's so much to love about Israel. There's so much to love about Israelis. And I think the Land of Israel Network is part of the solution. You are all part of the solution.
You're listening to the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com, broadcasting the truth and beauty of Israel to the world.
And we are back. Josh Haston here, Israel Uncensored, on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. It is Monday, the 24th of December, 2018, the 16th of Tevet, 5779. We're going to go to the phone right now. My guest is Seth Franzman. He is the op-ed editor of the Jerusalem Post, also executive director of the Middle East Center for Reporting and Analysis. Seth has spent a great deal of time covering conflicts throughout the Middle East. He's been in Iraq, he's been in Turkey, and of course the news here this week is the fact that U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that he is going to pull all of his troops, U.S. troops, out of Syria. Seth, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So here we have a lot going on vis-a-vis U.S., apparently new U.S. policy in regard to the situation in Syria. And the question I have for you is, what impact do you think Trump's policy of pulling U.S. troops out of Syria will have on impact? How will it impact us here in Israel?
Well, I mean, I think in the near term, it may not immediately affect us, but the larger picture is that with the U.S. reducing its footprint, and I think also leading to a lot of questions about how erratic the Trump administration is becoming, and the fact that he has sort of eclipsed his advisors, such as Pompeo and Bolton, who wanted to be tough on Iran. It's not good for Israel because, Israel wants to have a steady hand on the tiller in America. And that steady hand, it's not just a question of the fact that America supports Israel. America does support Israel, but it's a question of not having any of Israel's adversaries thinking that America is unsteady, because that could lead them to think that they might be able to pull something off, and that could lead to instability and conflict.
So I read an op-ed actually in the Jerusalem Post over the weekend, Caroline Glick's op-ed. She was actually on my show last week on a different topic. And she made the case that this actually might be helping Israel because this would be perhaps a reversal of the Obama administration's doctrine in supporting Iran. What is your comment in regard to some of the things Caroline was saying in Friday's Jerusalem Post?
Well, I just think that the problem there is that, just because Obama was wrong on certain things doesn't mean that everything that's the opposite is somehow therefore good. So in terms of the Iran deal, okay, Obama was wrong. But, in terms of the fight against ISIS, it's not just the story of the fight against ISIS. ISIS is an evil Nazi-like organization that was involved in genocide of minorities in the Middle East, the kind of people that we in Israel people are always saying, well, we care about minorities and stuff. So you have to care about the war on ISIS. Now, there is a miscalculation here that some people think somehow ISIS is fighting Iran or ISIS is counterweight to Iran. ISIS is not a counterweight to Iran. If anything, the existence of ISIS has allowed Iran to take over our region, claiming that it's fighting ISIS. So the fact is, not only do we need to fight ISIS, but we also, the American policy in eastern Syria was then to stabilize eastern Syria and curry American influence there that would be a block against some of this creeping Iranian influence. Now, the day after America leaves, eastern Syria is going to fall to Russia, Iran, and Turkey, and they're going to partition eastern Syria. And I think there's no possible way that could possibly be good. And the fact that it ostensibly seems the opposite of Obama's policy, it doesn't necessarily make it good. I mean, Obama did other things like sign the $1 billion of, what do they call it, the aid that Israel gets in military aid. So I don't think we want to just reverse that just because, well, Obama did it, therefore it must be bad. So I just think that it's not correct. I mean, I think that it's true. The Trump administration has already tried to go after Iran on sanctions and stuff and torn up the deal. So they've already we've already done that. But walking away from eastern Syria is potentially very, very problematic.
Do you think then that the world community really can rely on Turkey? Also reported by the J Post that apparently the President of the United States is having conversations with the Turks in regard to their role once the U.S. pulls out. Can Turkey finish off ISIS, or is their focus rather going to be to, I guess, take it out, take their hate really out on the Kurds, now that the U.S. will not be there shoulder to shoulder with the Kurds in the fight against ISIS and other groups?
Well, I think that Turkey, if you listen to the comments of the Turkish leadership, says that Israel is committing a Holocaust against the Palestinians. So I think it's kind of ridiculous to pretend that somehow Turkey is somehow a reliable partner in any way, shape, or form. And I also think there's no evidence that Turkey is actually fighting ISIS in Syria. I mean, no one seems to have looked at a map, which is that actually Turkey is the farthest you can get away from ISIS. So there's no evidence that Turkey is going to do anything against ISIS. Turkey's main goal in Syria is to reduce or block the YPG, which Turkey sees as the PKK. So that's Turkey's main goal. It's just like Israel's main goal, for instance, in the recent era, in the last few years, has been fighting groups like Hamas or opposing groups like Hezbollah. When there was ISIS on the Golan, Israel wasn't fighting ISIS, not because Israel likes ISIS, but because ISIS was not some massive threat, and Israel didn't see it as a priority. So Turkey doesn't see ISIS as a priority. Turkey is just telling the Trump administration this, and the Trump administration needs an excuse to leave anyway. So it's an easy kind of nonsensical claim. And I just think anyone in Israel that kids themselves that Turkey is some sort of partner is just listen to Turkey's statements and don't mislead themselves and say, yeah, but it's just popular consumption. You can't have a leader that says that Israel is committing a Holocaust and pretend it's populism. That's just an example of deep-seated anti-Semitism, to pretend that Israel is involved in a genocide. The fact that Israel ostensibly has relations with Turkey, very, very cold relations, is fine. That's a historical fact. But I don't think that Israel should kid themselves that Turkey is a country that has any real close interest with Israel, and it's not clear, how close even the Turkey-U.S. alliance is today.
Yeah, a war of words between Prime Minister Netanyahu and Turkish President Erdogan just yesterday via Twitter and in the media. We'll get to that later on. We'll speak about that as well on the show. But just last question here. The Prime Minister of Israel seems to be taking a don't worry, I wouldn't say don't worry, be happy, but it seems like he's not overly worried, at least publicly, about the entire situation. Should he be more concerned? Is he more concerned? Is he worried? And what can we expect in the, in the days and weeks ahead, perhaps on Israel's northern front?
Well, I think that Israel isn't in a position to express, worry or weakness. So Israel has to say that it's not worried. But I think that it's very, very troubling, the idea that the Americans would reverse policy 180 degrees after a short conversation on the phone and a tweet. So I think from Israel's standpoint, having Israel's closest ally, which is the United States, making extreme and erratic and rash decisions is not good at all. And I think it could eventually mean, who knows what the U.S. might do relating to Israel. Maybe one day Trump will have a conversation and decide that, okay, it's time to stop the relationship with Israel. I think it's a very, very, very problematic time. And I think that, of course, the Prime Minister has to project strength. And Israel, of course, is an extremely strong country. But it doesn't mean that it should, there shouldn't be some concerns about what's going on in Washington.
At the same time, reports indicate that perhaps President Trump will be revealing his Middle East peace plan vis-a-vis Israel and her Arab neighbors in the near future. We'll have to see when that happens. But I want to thank you so much for your time and your analysis. Seth Franzman, Jerusalem Post op-ed editor, Dr. Seth Franzman, let's be clear, Executive Director of the Middle East Center for Reporting and Analysis. I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Have a wonderful day, and let's talk again soon.
Thank you very much. Bye.
All the best. That's going to do it for today, folks. Josh Hasten here, Israel Uncensored, on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com for Monday, the 24th of December, 2018. 16th of Tevet 5779. Happy holidays to whomever is celebrating, listening to the show. Big shout out to my man Binyamin Bresky for all the work he does. Tabitha Epstein for getting these programs up. Without them, we could not do anything that we do here on the Land of Israel Network. If you missed any part of the show, you can always go back, listen to it on demand on the Land of Israel's website, on my Facebook page, on SoundCloud, iTunes, and several other places. That's going to do it for today. Again, happy holidays. Hope everyone is doing well in this wonderful world of ours. Most importantly, between now and when we speak again, please God, next Monday, everyone out there, be safe. Shalom, shalom from a nice wintry day here in Jerusalem, the eternal capital of the Jewish people. Goodbye.
Hi, this is Eve Harrow, host of Rejuvenation on the Land of Israel Network. You can hear a new show from me every Sunday, and every day of the week, shows from another one of my very talented fellow show hosts. Reach me, Eve, at thelandofisrael.com, and keep listening, everybody. We love your feedback. The Land of Israel, coming at you every day, every week. That's the Land of Israel Network on thelandofisrael.com.